Everyday superpower. We talk body language, relationships, game, everything in between. And I'm going to tell you on this one that there is so much incredible benefit and development that stems from a serious relationship breaking up for a man. Real talk. Real talk. I bet you've known these people who've been in relationships with the same person since like the start of their life. Like they've never really had an experience out. And this isn't to sort of say they need to see more people. That's not really what I'm getting on at. It would be a byproduct of what I'm going to discuss, but I'm not going on no tangent talking about how a man needs to have 500 million partners, because that's nonsense, and that's you know, that's an unsuccessful man's life, to be honest with you. No man's got the time to do them sort of things. Who is actually pursuing something of value. Now, with that being said, I say that to say this through personal experience, if not through those I see around me. When you are with someone and you spend a moment with them, like your significant other, your partner, yeah, your missus, when you are with that individual, you share an existence, and in sharing you might not necessarily need to provide in the same manner, okay, as you would do independently. So bro, this is going to be a healthy one. Where do we start from here? So first and foremost, let's keep it simple, yeah. Let's say your missus cooks for you, yeah? Fantastic, that's what I want. Your missus cooks for you, she looks after the house, blah, 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 and in due time you break up, right, boom, now I need to do it. As to where you got into a relationship when you were young, you were 16 years old, you met this girl, you were with her until you were, 21, 22, 23, you tell me. You've gone from your mother's household as to where you were a teenage boy. You might not necessarily have been, the epitome of cleanliness and sparkle in the household, or your mother might have looked after you or so forth, and then you met that lady, you moved out with her, and she looked after you, mothered you in that department. Now, when it's all said and done, you've got a lot of catching up to do. It's a blessing. It's a blessing because you have had the experience of being in that relationship, the twos and fro's, and experience the emotional turmoil of being a teenager in love. It's we haven't got our heads screwed on, right? It can go back and forth. It's probably not the most stable relationship you'll be in, in your lifetime. You take all of the experience and then you depart, and then you need to pull yourself together and emphasize on a masculine principle of independence, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it can go either way. You could go move back home with your mum, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I'm talking about men here, yeah? I'm talking about little boys. So if you continue onwards in regards to your path of adulthood and independence, you get yourself back on your feet, you heal, you recover, and in doing so, it's almost like a, what would you call it? There are some particular insects that will, grow a limb of sorts as to if it was cut off. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you call it. I'm going to find you the answer. One moment. Thank you. So the word I'm looking for is regeneration, yeah? Some insects, you'll cut their legs off and their legs will grow back over time, okay? This is more than likely stronger, When you smash a muscle at the gym, when you really go for it, you break down the muscle fiber, and then that muscle is weak momentarily, or at least has the aches and the pains, and then once it's recovered, it grows back larger, stronger, and this is exactly what you're doing coming out of this relationship. You're suffering the turmoil of having a breakup and wah, but the lessons you learn are going to really make you a man. So you might have been in a bad relationship. She might have cheated on you. She might have hurt your feelings. She might have walked all over you. That's completely fine. This happens to most men in most relationships, believe it or not. You just need to look around you and see that's the case. So this is the problem. Now, you get your heart broken by this woman. She's completely used and abused you and thought, this isn't the man for me. He's too weak. He's too soft. Look at how he lets me do this to him. And then what happens is you regenerate that metaphorical leg that's been cut off once she's gone, you know? Her being your leg, yeah? You have to learn how to cook your own food. You have to learn how to do the dishes. You have to learn how to do the bedding and all of these things she might have done initially. Financially speaking, now you're in an awkward position. So what do you have to do as a man? You have to learn how to go make ends meet. You have to learn how to go make the money and so forth. And the thing is, I'm going to revert back to this, just as I said, you could go back home if you have the fortune of doing so. You can go back home and live with mummy again. But the thing is, as much as it is comfortable, it's completely backwards and repulsive if you are wanting to have success with women, because I was going to say that to say this. Financially speaking was what I was going to say. You're now going to move out or find someone else or find somewhere else or find someone else to live with and so forth. But it might not be financially stable. You might have a heavy, abundant responsibility above your head to ensure that those bills are paid and that rent is paid, because now you're all doing it yourself. You've got no one to share that responsibility with. So you've gone from paying half to paying full, right? You could have mummy and daddy support you financially speaking. You could go live at home with mummy and daddy, that, but in doing so, you are going to, yes, find the path of least resistance and essentially have a comfortable situation in the midst of this traumatic experience. But you're not going to really strive in the future if you continuously continue to make these decisions and not understand that these problems are going to incite a fantastic development in yourself, right? I got a mate and he's just like, we say, when you're moving out of the house, you got to move out of the house, blah, blah, blah. No wonder women aren't finding you attractive. You're stuck at mummy and daddy's. What are you doing? You're bringing her back to there and all this and that. And he goes, all my friends said I have to stay here as long as possible because blah, 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 it's expensive living out. It's like, it's nothing to do with the money. It's nothing to do with the money. It's about the psychological development. It's about the path of masculinity. And as corny as that sounds, right, you might as well call it the path of femininity as well, because these women are moving out way before you. Bruh, imagine a woman in her mid-20s upwards and she's still living at home with her parents. It'd still be perceived as sad, let alone if that's a man. Imagine how she perceives that man doing so. Come on. Some people might disagree with that, say blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. It's the reality of it. It's the reality of it. So you learn that lesson and you move on to your second relationship and you look back and think, geez, that was, I mean, it won't even be in your conscious mind at this point. Maybe it's a year on down, you find somebody else nice to settle down with, or maybe you are dating within moments after leaving that relationship. But the mark that's left on your subconscious mind is going to serve purposefully to ensure you act in a better way in this second relationship. Maybe you have gone a little bit more cold-hearted, you know? Maybe it really hurt you, and maybe you don't want to go there again to the degree that you shut yourself off a little bit. Is that a bad thing? Hey, each to their own. You tell me whether it's a bad thing or not. But the thing is, you start to become a man. You start to become stern, stubborn. You don't take shit no more. You stop committing 100%. And that's not to say you're unfaithful. That just means that you're 99% committed. You're always ready for her to walk out the door because it's happened before. And if anything, that enhances and strengthens your relationship because you don't give her everything and you don't pedestalize her above and beyond yourself, which you would have done in your younger days. Make sense? And then as time goes by, you get older and you start to continue to realize how valuable life is and how important it is to be in a position of contentment and happiness. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're still talking about, embracing friction and bad times with the good. Like, it's going to aid you in growing, but you're not going to want that mess you wanted from your last relationship in this one. So you're going to act accordingly, and you're going to see the signs, and you're going to behave in a more appropriate manner. And me personally, I think these are issues in relationships that are incredibly long term in comparison to so I think these are I got sidetracked there, people. So I think that I shouldn't have looked at the text message, should I? It's some nonsense. I think that those who have been in long-term relationships from an early age are still, to some degree, rooted into the ages to which they got into the relationship as, if that makes sense to you. Because we tend to say how you get into a relationship is essentially how it will end or how it will continue onwards. So if you're not entering that relationship from a position of adult masculine frame, and she identifies that, and that's what she was attracted to, and that's what you provided to her, and she reflected the counterbalance on her end and gave you the yang to that and gave you that positive feminine essence and energy. If that was never the case, then it's going to feel abnormal for her to go into that position, and it will feel abnormal for you to go into that position. So you'll be less than optimized to have a fulfilling, fruitful, stress-free, consistent relationship, if you know where I'm coming from. But you could argue to deal with that and the highs and the lows and have a lifelong partner is just all part of the process. If that suits you, that's completely fine. I'm not saying you need to break up with people in some metaphorical, weight training session in order for you to become a better self. I'm just saying there will be lessons to be learned, and you won't want to make the same lessons again. All right. To continue on with that metaphor, I would argue that being in these relationships, serious relationships, not just like momentary, but serious relationships, and then, having a little bit of resistance and then eventually breaking up is the equivalent to having an injury during your training, and then you have to recover from that injury, but you come back stronger, but you don't want to push it to that degree again. You don't want to push to that limit again. You see where I'm coming from? I think breakups are important, and I think men need to experience one heartbreak in their life in order to create a degree of pessimism that pushes them away from the childlike naivety most men can have. Yeah. And hey, some people continue just doing the same old cycle and making the same old mistakes, each to their own, Maybe only so many people have souls and the rest literally are just non-playable characters in this world. You tell me. Leave a comment down below if you have a soul or if you're a non-playable character. I'm signing out. Peace.